Hello YouTube, my name is Zach, and today I'm going to be talking about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while, the Fach, or the German Fach System. But before that, I want to go ahead and tell you a few things. First off, I do currently offer a free 30-minute vocal assessment on my website, zachansleyvocals.com. Go by there and check it out if you're interested in getting a free voice lesson. It's just 30 minutes of whatever you want to do vocally. If you want to let me hear something and get some quick feedback, I'll do that. If you want to develop a game plan for the future for your own voice lessons, we can do that as well. It's really up to you, but it's totally free right now. Check it out on zachansleyvocals.com. If you didn't know, I've been live streaming quite a bit on twitch.tv lately, twitch.tv/zachansleyvocals. And over there, I've been doing live vocal analyses and reactions, very similar to how I make videos on this channel, but I've been able to do it on request. So some of these singers that you all are asking me about that are kind of smaller or lesser known, I've been able to talk about them in real time. So please feel free to join in and follow me on Twitch. We're having a great time over there, and I am going to be moving some of my content there. Don't worry, my videos over here aren't going anywhere. I'm going to keep making one per week, but I am definitely going to be focusing some effort on Twitch as well, because I'm already an affiliate and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we've been having great discussions. People have been cutting up with me, and people have even proven me wrong about some things, believe it or not. So it's been a great time, and I hope to see you there as well. Anyway, let's get started talking about Fach. The Fach system is a classification system for the voice, and I believe that the fact that it still exists is a major problem for modern singers. And I'm going to go through that today. There are three reasons that I think the Fach system is causing a problem in modern singing is: one, most people have no idea what Fach means. Two, people think that the voice has no limitations attached to it and it can do and be whatever you want it to be. And three, people try and attach the concept of Fach or vocal class to modern music. So let's look at point number one. Most people have no idea what Fach means. So the first thing I have to do to make this situation a little more clear is to define Fach. What is it? It is, according to Wikipedia, and this is not the only definition, but I liked this one and it does a good enough job. And if you need a more precise one, you can find them all over the place, but this one's fine for my purposes. It is a method of classifying singers, primarily opera singers, according to the range, weight, and color of their voices. It is used worldwide, but is primarily used in Europe, especially in German-speaking countries, and by repertory opera houses. The Fach system is a convenience for singers in opera houses. It prevents singers from being asked to sing roles which they are incapable of performing. There's a lot to unpack here, but this is an extremely good definition that explains exactly what its role is and why you should or should not be using it. First off, it says in the definition that Fach is designed for primarily opera singers, and this is true. The reason for this is that the classifications in this system were originally designed for composers to have a better idea of what to expect out of the singers they put into specific roles. It also allowed them to more efficiently compose roles and parts for singers so that they knew what they could expect out of ranges and different types of voices and different sounds of voices. With that in mind, let's look a little bit at how the system classifies the voice. The three criteria that the definition gives are range, weight, and color. Let's look at those one at a time. Range is quite literally the distance that the voice can go from the lowest note to the highest note. Now, there are different types of range. There is the true range, which is the lowest down in the basement, the lowest notes you can sing, and then the highest notes you can do, whatever they are. That's your true range. That's the lowest your voice can go to the highest your voice can go. This is not what is taken into consideration when you class a voice. The functional range of the singer is what is taken into account when you talk about the classification of the singing voice. Functional range is the range of pitches that a singer can create without strain. And in opera specifically, we're dealing with the modal register or the chest voice. We're not talking very much about the head voice type stuff. In women we are, but in men we're not. We're not talking about falsetto. Head voice, falsetto in men. It's not relevant. Women, yes. Men, no. The range allows you to determine which voice part you are. And when you talk about voice parts, you have bass, you have baritone, you have tenor, you have contralto, you have alto, and you have soprano. These are your 6 baseline voice parts. And yes, I'm leaving out things like countertenor because I consider those to be outliers. So it's not that I forgot about them. I'm just keeping this simple. Each of those voice types has a range that is typically assigned to it. One of the most confusing ones is baritone, and I could probably make an entire video on baritones alone since I am one and I understand them very well. But this is why range is important. Your average baritone is not going to be singing notes higher than G4, some F sharp 4. That's about where I peak out, and I am about as traditional of a baritone as it gets. There are the occasional baritones that can sing A4s, B4s, C5. They are 1 in a billion, though. You do not see them very much. When someone's up in that range consistently, they're usually a tenor, and that brings me to my next point. Tessitura. Tessitura is the average range that a singer uses. So if I'm sitting around an F sharp, G, G sharp, A3 in that range a lot, I'm probably a baritone or a bass. If I'm singing around in C4, D4, E4 a lot, I'm probably a tenor. The average pitch usage for a singer is what determines what voice type they are, not the way that their voice sounds. So that brings us to our next two. And when we talk about weight and color, they usually can combine to create timbre. So you've got your range, and then you're looking at the timbre of the singer. So for myself, I'm a bass baritone. This means that I'm a baritone. I have a low extension, which means that I sing lower more easily than I sing higher. And the weight of my voice is thicker and heavier. So I have a big, robust sounding voice, and it's dark. So with all those qualities together, I'm a bass baritone. A lot of times in opera, composers would write bass baritone roles to be villain roles because they're commanding and they sound dark and they sound imposing. And so bad guys are supposed to be, imposing and sinister and things like that. So you look at roles like Iago from Otello, credo in un dio crudel, stuff like that. Those big angry pieces. I believe in a cruel God, that kind of deal. Bass baritones would fit that role because the voice was robust and big. So composers would say we want a bass baritone to be the villain. Whereas lyric baritones, on the other hand, they would have a lighter, more flippant, a little less commanding sounding voice. Very famous lyric baritone is Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau. There's also Simon Keenly-Side. Those guys are lyric baritones, and you'd find them taking on roles like Papageno from the Magic Flute, things like that. Comic roles or roles of like aloof people or like slightly crazy people, things like that. And of course, I'm only talking about baritones right now, but you can take this process and attach it to any of the voice types, and you can determine what kind of singer they are, and you can determine what Fach they would fit into as a result. So this is how the Fach is determined. A lot of people do it backwards, and they say, well, this person sounds like they have a deep voice, and so that means that they're a baritone. This is not how it works. You always check the tessitura, the functional range of a singer first before you try to assign what weight and color they have, because each voice type has its own types of singers that have extra thickness or robustness to the sound. So if you ever hear someone use a term like baritenor, they have no idea what they're talking about. That isn't even a relevant Fach in the first place. But second off, it doesn't work because it completely omits one of the important elements of the classification system, like lyric baritone. You don't call someone a tenor baritone. Someone could be a lyric baritone or someone could be a dramatic tenor, but you can't be a tenor baritone. You're combining two voice types together. That's why terms like that don't work, and they're just made up by people at the range place or wherever it is that are, trying to make people seem like they're more informed than they actually are. So next time you hear someone say baritone, slap them for me. The second issue that comes into place with the concept of Fach is that people tend to believe that the voice has no limitations, and it's this unrestrained instrument that can do anything you want it to anytime, and this is just patently false. You cannot change your vocal class. You cannot change your vocal type. The voice type that you have is dictated by the physiology of your body at any given point in your life, and you can't change it. Think about it. Can you go back to singing the same way as you could when you were 10 years old? Of course not, because your vocal configuration is completely different now than it was then. All these structures are more developed. They're stronger. They're less elastic. Things like that. The vocal cords are a different thickness and length than they were. All of these factors come into play when you determine what your voice is. So not only is there this concept that the voice has no limitation, there's this lingering idea that you can change voice types whenever you want, or you can work on singing in one way and then you'll become a tenor or something. That isn't how it works. Your voice is what it is, and you have to learn to accept that. And the sooner you do, the better of a singer you're going to be. And it doesn't really matter anyway that much. And it leads me to my third problem that I have with the Fach system. My third issue with the Fach system, it's a little bit more in depth, is that people try and attach the Fach system to modern music when it shouldn't be. Keep in mind, like I said earlier, that back when operas were being composed in the first place, composers had a certain expectation of the types of sound they wanted their singers to create, and they could compose their music and their operas accordingly. Singers, as a result, would learn the repertoire that fit within a certain Fach so that they would be prepared and they would be able to just go to a part and do it. So in conjunction to that, not only did it give composers an exactly clear idea of what they should be doing when they compose for certain voice parts, it also gave the singers a very specific idea of what pieces they should be learning and expect to play roles in. And that is why the system was functional, because it created this sort of symbiotic relationship between composer and singer where everyone kind of knew what to expect out of one another. A baritone wasn't going to look at a piece of music and see a B flat 4. They knew they were never going to see that, whereas the composer would know that if they wrote this for a bass baritone, they'd get someone with a thick, dark-sounding voice, right? And so that was the purpose of the Fach system back then, and even now for people who do classical music. But today, most people write their own music, and as a result, this system is antiquated and does not need to be used when you talk about contemporary singing. If anything, it is restrictive and limiting because of the fact that to sing in a certain voice type or Fach, you have to focus on one specific range. When you're writing your own music, you don't have to think about those kinds of things. You can create music that fits the comfort level of your voice. One of the biggest mistakes I think people make is that they try too hard to make their voices fit into whatever voice type that they are, when it shouldn't be that way. Just sing. I tell people this all the time. Your voice type or your range or whatever it is will fill itself out on its own whether you want it to or not. You do not need someone to label you for you to know what feels good in your voice and what does not. If you decide to go into classical music, it's going to be absolutely vital that you get a Fach and you develop toward it. So that way you can start working on specific roles that are going to sound good in your voice. But outside of that, don't worry about this system. It really has nothing to do with you. If you aren't in classical music, don't worry about it. I promise you. All you're going to do is confuse yourself, get frustrated, and get into tons of debates online in the range place and stuff like that with people about things that don't even matter. Who cares if Ronnie James Dio was a tenor or not? It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. It's not like he wrote the music to only be sung by specific tenors. No, he wrote the music so he could perform it. Totally different system of logic now than it used to be. So by trying to attach vocal classes to modern music, you are actually selling yourself short of what you could create as a musician. The system is antiquated and it should be done away with when it comes to writing modern music. So I hope that point was compelling to you. That's really it. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I do make videos every week, and especially now that my elbow is almost healed up. Next week, I'm going to be making a video about Ronnie James Dio, and you'll see what that's all about. I hope you all enjoy it as well. Please follow me on Twitch because, like I said, I'm doing live streams on there all the time these days. It's a lot of fun. Also, join my Discord server. Link is going to be down in the description. We have all sorts of vocal chat, and I have a specific channel in there now where I take analysis requests. So please join the Discord server if you're interested in requesting something for me to analyze. I do have a Patreon. I'm going to have the link down in the description, so please check that out as well. If you do feel compelled to support me in that way, I would greatly appreciate it. And remember, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm offering a 30-minute free vocal assessment, so please sign up on my website if you're interested, zachansleyvocals.com. All right, that's it. So I will see you all again next week with the Dio video, and if not before then at the stream. Thank you. Take care. Bye.